Hey everybody, welcome to TV Recap. I'm Lance and you are watching the recap discussion for Game of Thrones Season 6, Episode 10, The Winds of Winter. This is going to be a summary of the entire episode with commentary, so be advised that this will spoil the plot of the episode if you have not seen it yet. Okay, the Season 6 finale starts with a montage showing everyone in King's Landing preparing for Loras's and Cersei's trials at the Sept of Baelor. Loras is tried first, and he confesses his sins and pledges himself to the faith. After Loras gets a sweet new forehead decoration, the High Sparrow announces that Cersei's trial will begin. We then find out that Cersei never actually left the Red Keep, and Tommen is being kept in the Red Keep by the Mountain. Grand Maester Pycelle is then summoned to Qyburn's chambers, where he is executed by Qyburn's little birds, aka creepy children. Shortly after that, Margaery realizes that everyone in the Sept is in danger, and then the wildfire underneath the Sept explodes, destroying the entire building. Now, this entire sequence was done brilliantly. The tension building throughout the whole scene very slowly. The music actually underscored the tension amazingly, and the actual CGI was incredible. Now, after Cersei sees the destruction of the Great Sept, she goes down to a dungeon to torture Septa Unella as revenge for her captivity. Before she leaves, Cersei leaves the mountain to carry out the Septa's torture. Cutting upstairs in the Red Keep, we see Tommen alone with his grief over the loss of his wife and the High Sparrow. Tommen then removes his crown and jumps from the window to his death. On my first watch, I didn't think the show could go darker than Cersei's torture right away, but Tommen's suicide definitely took me off guard. We then move to the other half of the Lannister twins, Jaime, celebrating with the phrase about the return of Riverrun's control. During the feast, Walder Frey compares himself and Jaime as Kingslayers, but Jaime leaves him with a very clear reminder that the Freys need the Lannisters much more than the Lannisters need the Freys. Now, I thought the scene was a little slow on the surface, but we did get a really good sense that Jaime seems to really hate his dishonorable reputation. Jumping back to King's Landing, Cersei is shown Tommen's body. When asked about his funeral, Cersei tells Qyburn to burn his body and to bury the ashes where the Sept once stood. And I think this is where we definitely lost any bit of good that was left in Cersei. We then get to catch up with Sam and Gilly, arriving in Old Town and at the Citadel. Their arrival is especially noted by a huge flock of white ravens flying from the tower. Sam announces his arrival, although the maester that greets him notes that the Archmaester will need to speak with Sam about the strangest of his circumstances. However, Sam is given access to the Citadel library in the meantime. Now, while the scene may have just been to establish where Sam will end up next season, the shot of the library was amazing, and who doesn't love the detail of the lamps matching the show's opening credits? The show moves to Winterfell, where Jon is speaking with Melisandre when Davos walks in and demands that Melisandre confess to burning Princess Shireen. Melisandre claims to only have been doing the work of the Lord of the Light, but Jon orders her to ride south in place of execution, and Davos bluntly tells her that he will execute her himself if he ever sees her again. Jon then goes to speak with Sansa on the walls of Winterfell, and they share a good moment discussing their trust of each other. Now, before Jon leaves, Sansa tells him about the white raven they received, signaling that winter has arrived. I really like both of these scenes, especially the raw emotion that Davos had, but still kept in check out of respect for Jon. Plus, it was great to see Jon and Sansa reaffirm their relationship as a brother and sister, regardless of Jon's parentage. Now, finally revisiting Dorne, we find out that Lady Olenna is visiting with Ellaria and the Sand Snakes regarding an alliance against the Lannisters. Ellaria reveals that she has entered an arrangement with Varys to bring Dany to Westeros. It was great to see Olenna back in action snapping at people, and I was very pleased that I predicted Varys' destination to go correctly. Speaking of Dany, we see her meet with Daario to tell him that he will not be going to Westeros with her. He tells her that he's not proud and doesn't care who she marries for political reasons, but she still rejects him. Dany then meets with Tyrion, and he tells her that it is good to be afraid for what she is about to begin. Dany then rewards Tyrion's faith and loyalty by naming him the Hand of the Queen and gives him a pin that she had made. Now, the Daario part of the scene may have been necessary for story purposes, but it felt a little dull. But on the good side, the Tyrion part of the scene completely turned it around, showing how well Dany and Tyrion work together. We then see Walder Frey eating and asking the serving girl that was giving Jaime the eyes earlier where his sons are. She tells him that his sons are already there and reveals that they are in the meat pie he's been eating. The serving girl then removes her face, revealing herself to be Arya, and tells Walder Frey that she wants him to know that it's a Stark that kills him as she slits his throat. Now, this was a conflicting scene for me because although seeing the Freys get justice for the Red Wedding was nice, it was rough seeing Arya go so dark. Littlefinger then meets with Sansa in the Godswood at Winterfell and reveals that his true goal is to sit the Iron Throne with Sansa at his side. She turns him down, but I can't help but feel like pushing Littlefinger away can't be a good thing for the Starks in the long run. Going north of the Wall, Benjen delivers Bran and Meera to the Wall, but confirms that the Wall is magical and prevents the dead from passing south. Bran then taps into a weirwood tree and gets the resolution of the Tower of Joy from 7 weeks ago. 7! We find out that the Lyanna Stark had actually given birth to a boy and makes Ned promise to protect him and hide the fact that he's Rhaegar's son. Now, anyone who's gone into any theory discussion on the internet about this show expected this to happen, but it felt so good to finally get some closure on likely the longest running theory about this show or book series. Cutting straight to Jon in true cinematic fashion, we see him trying to keep peace between the Northern Lords, the Wildlings, and the Knights of the Vale at Winterfell. Jon warns them about the White Walkers and starts to lose the room until Lady Mormont admonishes the Lords for not backing the Starks earlier, and she declares Jon as the king in the north, followed by Lord Manderley and Lord Glover, then the entire room. Now, while Jon looked a bit overwhelmed by this, it was good to see some loyalty from the north for House Stark again. Now, following his success in the Riverlands, Jaime returns to King's Landing only to find the Sept of Baelor destroyed, and he arrives at the Red Keep just in time to see Cersei being crowned queen. And he has a very concerned look on his face, which to be honest is about 5 seasons too late. Now, to wrap up the season, we see Theon and Yara at the start of a sweeping sequence showing Dany's armies beginning to sail to Westeros. The shot then follows Drogon flying in between and above the ships with his brothers, ending with Dany leading the fleet with Tyrion, Varys, and Missandei at her side. The season then wraps with one final shot of the 3 dragons. Okay, final thoughts for this week. This was an amazing season finale with a great number of twists and surprises, even for the book readers who've been expecting some of these outcomes for a while. Now, each scene and location felt unique and different, but they all still flowed together and tied together thematically very well. But without a doubt, the music of this episode stole the show. From the ominous score at the trials, to the Reigns of Castamere callback when Arya killed Walder Frey, to the dark, triumphant theme with Dany's ships, the music wins a gold star this week. Okay, so what did you guys think? Were you happy with the way the season ended? Did all of your questions get answered? Or what can you not believe you have to wait another year for? Please leave your comments below and make sure to subscribe to the channel for all of our recaps and discussions by clicking here. If there's a show you would like us to do recaps of, please let us know by tweeting us at TV Recap, and keep an eye out for our panel discussion about Game of Thrones Season 6 later this week. Thanks for watching, everybody. I'll see you next time.